Come on.
2 years ago, I started training weighted pull-ups for the first time with the goal of doing a pull-up with my wife on my back, which was equivalent to 77% of my body weight. The moment I achieved it, I stopped training weighted pull-ups and started focusing on training one-arm pull-ups. And eventually, I successfully achieved the one-arm pull-up. After that, I made the mistake of stopping doing any form of high-intensity pulling training by shifting my focus to pull-up endurance training in order to chase views. I did this for a few months until I came across the first ever online weighted calisthenics competition hosted by Michael Schultz. In this competition, the weighted pull-up is one of the moves to be tested. So I went ahead to test my weighted pull-up for the first time in 2 years. To my great surprise, I was only able to do 75 pounds, which was 57% of my body weight. A big 20% drop from my personal record. I was shocked at how much strength I had lost. This was unacceptable to me. So I decided to start training weighted pull-ups again. I was able to regain my weighted pull-up strength back to 90 pounds after a month of training, which is 68.7% of my body weight. After training for another 2 weeks, I was able to hit 95 pounds, which is 72.5% of my body weight. After training for 2 more weeks, I was able to hit 100 pounds, which is 76% of my body weight. It took me around 2 months to regain my strength back to being able to pull up with an extra 76% of my body weight. The time frame is nearly identical to 2 years ago when I first trained weighted pull-ups, where it took me 57 days to achieve pulling up with an extra 77% of my body weight. At this point, I thought about stopping and calling it a video. Especially if we consider and adding the weight of the chain and the belt, the load actually becomes 77.4% of my body weight, which will surpass my previous 77.1% of my body weight PR by 0.3%. However, I thought to myself, why not try to go for a decisive new PR instead? I decided to continue to train and aim to achieve a pull-up with 105 pounds, which is 80% of my body weight. I continued to train. However, a personal life-changing event happened to me, which made me have to alter my sleep schedule, which significantly affected my weighted pull-up performance. Prior to the event, I was training with 2 reps of 80 pounds pull-up for 4 sets. After the event, I couldn't even finish the 3rd set. It took me another whole month to finally be able to complete all 4 sets of 2 reps of 80 pounds pull-up again. After that, I decided to double check if I could still pull 100 pounds. And yes, I could. 2 weeks later, I decided to go for 105 pounds. And this happened.
Nice.
Ooh. As usual, due to the camera angle, I know some people are going to whine about whether my chin is really above the bar. So here's another camera angle that clearly shows that my chin was above the bar.
Nice.
Ooh, yo, PR. Man, that's a great start. Okay, let's take a look at the weights, guys.
Yeah.
Take a look at the weights. We have 5, 10, 45, 45, so that is 105. Now it's time to talk about what everyone cares the most, which is how I train for it. When I mentioned the exact training plan I did 2 years ago, which includes the percentage of the weight relative to my body weight, reps, and sets, a lot of people copied exactly what I did. Some people messaged me telling me that it was impossible to complete the workout because the intensity was too high. But some other people also messaged me telling me that the workout was too easy and they weren't seeing the same results in 57 days as I did. The truth is, those exact weights, reps, and sets work for me, but won't necessarily work for you because it's impossible to have a cookie-cutter workout program that works for everyone. So this time I'm going to explain how I train at a higher level. The way I train for it is finding the heaviest weight that allows me to do a pull-up with strict form that is slow and controlled. When you are going for 1 rep max, it is inevitable that your form is going to break down. For example, I wasn't able to maintain scapula depression, but since my chin was still above the bar, it still counts. But when you train, you shouldn't train with an intensity that causes you to elevate your scapula. Another example is that during 1 rep max competitions, as long as your chin is above the bar for just 1 millisecond, it still counts. As a result, competitors pull a bit explosively at the bottom part to create a momentum to avoid pulling hard at the top portion of the pull-up, since pulling at the top portion of the pull-up is the most difficult. It makes sense to do this during competitions, but it does not make sense to do it during training, because you will never strengthen the top portion of the pull-up if you train like that. I can go on and on with more examples, but in the end, it all comes down to whether you are being honest with yourself. If the weight that allows you to do a slow streak weighted pull-up is only 70% of 1 rep max, that will be totally fine. There is zero point in forcing it to be 85% of 1 rep max and compromise the form just because ski climber train it with 85% of 1 rep max. If you can actually do a slow streak pull-up with 90% of 1 rep max, you should go for it and not drop it back to 85% just because ski climber train it with 85% of 1 rep max. Once you figure out the perfect weight, do as many reps with that weight as possible in a set. For me personally, it was 3 reps initially, and then it became 2 reps. If you have good endurance, it could be 4 or 5 reps and that's totally okay. As for the set count, I believe you need at least 4 sets to get the necessary volume in. You can rest up to as long as 5 minutes in between sets. For most people, a 5-minute rest should be more than enough. But if somehow you can't complete the set with a 5-minute rest in between, reduce the weight to the point that will allow you to finish all 4 sets with a strict form. To show you some real numbers, for me, it was 3 reps of 55 pounds for 4 sets. And it evolved to 2 reps of 70 pounds for 4 sets, and then 2 reps of 75 pounds for 4 sets, and then 2 reps of 80 pounds for 4 sets. Again, this is what works for the 2022 Geek Climber, and it won't necessarily even work for the 2020 Geek Climber. So you really need to figure out what works for you based on these principles. Hope that's not too complicated. Feel free to comment below if you have any questions. Additionally, out of curiosity, I decided to test my max reps of bodyweight pull-ups, and I was able to do 16, which is 1 rep more than my previous PR 15. This again shows that max strength and endurance are 2 completely different things. Lastly, I know a ton of people want to see me training for 25 reps bodyweight pull-ups, but I decided to put it in the back of my to-do list because I realized that I'm much more interested in high-intensity training than endurance training. I decided to take a break from weighted pull-ups since I hit a PR. I decided to change things up a bit and continue my high-intensity pulling training by training the weighted muscle up. I like it so far, so I will make a video of it in the future, so definitely stay tuned for that. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, I want to let you know that I recently started a food bar business called 5 Bar recently. Having a good sleep and good diet is essential to performance. If you don't, you are not going to get results no matter how hard you train. 5 Bar is a healthy pre-workout field that has 0 added sugar, consists of real food ingredients exclusively, and is organic.
I love the taste. I love the crunchiness, the chocolate. I love the added cacao nibs are perfect in there. You have to crunch on it a little bit, but it dissolves. It doesn't just stay there and like gets really chewy. What's really cool about this is that it only has literally those 5 ingredients, and it tastes really good too. Overall, man, this is really good. Great job.
Definitely check out the link in the video description below to order some 5 bars. See you in the next video.